I think that most children shudder when they hear the word test, especially those end of year tests that we've got to do, whether we call them benchmarks or milestones or whatever it is. I get it. I never liked them at school either. I was a perfectionist though, and I was actually really scared of failing a test. That was the worst thought to me. And as I have been teaching and as I've been homeschooling my girls and all these things, I keep coming back to, the question is brought up about standardized tests and do we really need them? And, I don't think that we need them for test sake. Why are we just testing all the time? Yes, we want to see that our children are progressing. We want to see that they're moving forward. But what if we flipped that and we're not really looking at as so much for the child, but for us, how we could be using them? Hi, and welcome to Learning Life, and thank you so much for joining me. Did you know that sometimes the most brilliant and intelligent students do not shine on standardized tests because they do not have standardized minds? Diana Ravitch. Yes, Diana, you are right. Not every child is a good test taker, and especially standardized tests. Their minds, they're not the same. We can't just box them up. But, standardized tests, I think they're here to stay, right? We have them every year in your public school and private school. If you're homeschooling, maybe you don't have to do it every year. It really depends on your state. I know in Georgia, it's at 3rd grade, 6th, 9th. And actually, I got my girls to do them from the end of 1st grade. And you might be wondering, why, if you don't really like them? Because I really don't like standardized tests. I'm willing to say that. Has my stance changed on standardized tests? Not really, okay? I really don't like them when it's testing for test's sake. But why did I get them to do it 1st grade if they didn't have to do it until 3rd grade? Well, somebody got in my head. It was this little buzzing bee of are you sure you're not failing them? Are you sure that they're learning what they need to be learning? I let those voices get to me. I shouldn't have, but when I got those results and I took a moment to sit and look at them, I was oh, this is actually helpful. This is helpful for me. I didn't really care about the numbers for them. I was looking at how this helped me to plan and go, oh, we actually have a few little holes that we have to deal with. And this is what I want. I don't want to put pressure on the children about, we've got to be doing well. And when they get that, that was always the worst. What did you get? What did you get? We're not competing on this. And when we're homeschooling, we don't have to be competing. But what if we flip that switch, flip that script actually, and say, look, this is an effective tool for me as the homeschooling parent in planning what we're going to be doing the next year. How to use standardized test results. I have administered a lot of ITBS tests, otherwise known as the Iowas. When I was tutoring and working with kids, I started doing that then. And I just keep my certification up so that I can be doing it. Just because I want to also just really encourage kids as they're doing it. I want to take that stress away. But when you're a parent and you get these test results, I've had lots of phone calls what does that mean? So this, with all personal information taken away from the top, is what an ITBS example looks like in the information that you're going to be getting. There are other tests like the CAT-6, the California Achievement Test. I've never done that one. I've always liked the ITBS because it's a skills-based test. So we're not worrying about the content, but are they picking up the skills appropriate for that grade level? And so we have up the top here the stuff that a lot of people are really fascinated with because it feels to me that's that they want to see. Ooh, especially this middle one, my child is above grade level. This is actually one of my girls, one of the old ones, and she's above grade level, according to this. And I could be yes, let's skip ahead. I'm not going to. This is just encouraging to me. So I don't really take a hold of this. I like to see this to go, oh, okay, where are they at? According to the national standard, we're in the middle here. This is great. But again, this is not my focus. This is where I look. down the bottom, because this is actually really showing me where there might be some holes in their learning, like in their skills, in what they're actually doing, because it goes through like every sort of different part that is part of this test. Now we have things like our implicit meaning, our key ideas, extended reasoning, and all these questions. And I like it because it tells you what their percentage correct is, and then like what the national one is, and we see these bars and these graphs. And so I look at these and I look at the numbers. I'm like, oh, so I do a quick rundown and I realize that when it comes to spelling and vocab, we might need to do a little bit more work. And I sort of knew that. That was okay. And then the other ones like phonemic awareness and like analyzing word parts. Okay, I'm saying to myself here, she's not doing badly, but we could really like pick up here. So I look at this part. To me, this is the helpful information for planning. Now, this is another one. This is another daughter's. And this one always makes me laugh because there's a little bar here. I knew coming into it that implicit meaning, because she's a logical thinker, was really not going to be her strength. She actually did better than I thought. But I get encouraged and I look and I see. And then I was able to go, oh, we're actually having some issues here with measurement. We might actually need to practice like a little bit more. So as I was thinking through, okay, what do we want to be doing next year? What do we need to focus on? I was able to pull it out of here and say, hey, this is like what we're doing. And when parents ask me about, and I go through, this is where I really focus on with them so that they can understand. And I say, look, this is good. Like this, if they're at least at grade level or like above, then you go, okay, what you're doing is working. They are getting things. They're getting these skills. But don't focus on the fact, if it's showing them like 2 grade levels ahead, don't jump them ahead. Don't focus on our numbers. Let's focus on what we could do to really be strengthening up and shoring our children. And we want to encourage them. This is what it is. I'm always saying to my girls, numbers don't define us. I used to always say that to the students that I worked with, these test results, they're really not for the girls. And they don't know each other's results. I just show them and talk it through with them and say, hey, look at this. We're going to work on this a little bit more. And they're fine with that. We have some holes. How are we going to fill those holes? Why might there be some holes? Well, different curricula are going to focus on different aspects. There's different styles like in the learning and all of that. And maybe your child hasn't covered that yet. Maybe they have struggled with a certain part and sort of need some more extra practice and review. You might have also delayed starting that grade level of a subject. So, sometimes we just let our children work through, make sure they get it. And let's say, they're sitting that 6th grade exam, but they really only started 6th grade work a few months before. This will show those holes, but it's not detrimental. And then we do have, if we've got some learning issues. So here are a couple of examples, just pulling out, and we're seeing a lot more things here, moving towards the left. And, we could be discouraged with that. We could be going, I know this sweet child, and this sweet child has some learning issues, but the parents are able to look at it and feel encouraged by what they see, in the percentage and how they are actually doing. They did the test because it was the state requirement, but they weren't really concerned about what he got. Did it show him being on grade level? He was actually really encouraging to show what he did. And so if your child has a learning challenge, then this isn't really going to show on the test results because they don't take that disability into account with the test. It just shows them how they did and how it lines up nationally. Now this student here, we see more in the math. And now coming into it, the mum knew, okay, well, we're half a year behind in math. I'm no problems at all. And so for her, it was oh, actually, she's really getting a lot of the different things that I didn't realize. Okay, this is where we work. Now we could get focused up here and being well, oh no, is she really there on grade level? It doesn't really matter. Where do we need to work to really build up that strength? This is a tool. Okay, we don't let numbers define our children. We don't say, well, you're reading at this particular grade level and at this stage and you're this and you're that and you're above, you're below. No, don't let those numbers define them. Use it as a tool. Use it as you're planning going, oh, let's do some extra practice here. Like, we do extra practice with implicit meaning. We do extra practice with vocabulary and like looking at all of that. Measurement, great. Let's go back over it. I'm not going to let the top part really define and go, oh, are they ahead? Well, can we jump them ahead? I don't want to. I want them to keep going at the pace that they are. But we use these things as a tool. And if you're concerned that, your child might stress out before, like if there's, let's say their very first ever test is 3rd grade, do one the year before. You know what? Let them feel it and get into it. But even if it's their first one that they have to do, this isn't a stressor. This is, and how I present it to the girls, hey, we're going to do this so that mommy can see how I can really best help you and support you in the coming school year. And it takes that pressure off. Of course, you know what? We like to do it with our friends. And so we see the 4 little personalities competing with each other. Who's going to be first? Who's going to do this? Who's going to be the neatest? It all comes out. But, this is a great tool. And I share that with my friends. And I share that, as they come through and they ask about it. I'm like, okay, let's do it. You want to see where they're at? Great. Let's do the test and let me show you how well they are doing. And these are the areas that we need to sort of fill in. These are the holes. And that's all it is. Do I like standardized tests for standardized tests' sake? No. But do I like them as a tool? Yes. Yes, I do. And you can too. Well, thank you so much for watching today, for being part of this Learning Life. Now, if you have any questions about it, feel free to shoot them below. And, if you want to help be part of bringing these videos out, you can. You can do that by being a champion. So check that out at patreon.com or at my website, LearningThis.Life.